This week, the economy has really been in focus as we got that awful jobs report. And then now Trump is setting tariff levels, basically tax, at levels that we haven't seen since the 1930s, which is like Great Depression era. I want to go through a couple stories that really caught my attention because I'm tracking this along with you. And let's just go through the details of this stuff. This is from the New York Times. It says, Trump's tariffs are making money that may make them hard to quit. Okay, so maybe the tariffs aren't going to go away anytime soon. You also have this. Unemployed Americans endure longer job searches in a cooling job market. So we put these two things together to help you understand it. Prices are going up due to Trump policy. Jobs are going down, again, due to Trump policy. This is not a good situation. Trump, however, is going to try to tell you that the USA is the hottest country. Everything's going great. We are so back. That's according to Trump. And I always say the same thing, guys. Don't let them tell you how you feel. You tell me. Share in the comments. Are we in the hottest country? Are jobs coming back, right? I want to hear. Trump will also say you're all confident. Everyone's winning, right? Consumer confidence shatters expectations. And then he tells you that he's really, really good at golf. No, I'm serious. This is actually what they're doing 12 hours ago. Winning on and off the course. The 2025 Men's Senior Club Championship. Donald Trump's name is at the top, so I guess he's really good at golf. And I want to go through details of stuff because this is how they gaslight you all the time. You will know your own situation. You will know how much stuff costs the store. You will know how much money that you have at your disposal. You know your own situation, right? What we don't know, I didn't know Trump was good at golf. I know he cheats, so, so there's that. This is the current situation with the tariffs. They always say, guys, we're making so much money on tariffs, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense because basically it's just taxes that you're paying whilst he's also cutting services that you need, right? But yes, the tariff revenue is going up. I can see that, 29.6 billion. But again, Americans are paying this. So it's always a strange thing to celebrate, like, hey, you're paying more taxes. Fantastic, right? And that's what Fox News tells you all the time, or the Trump people. And then I guess, again, they're trying to claim that Trump is really good at golf. This is the headlines that really caught my attention, why I want to go through it with you, because you always know it's trending this way, but you know, when you put it all together, it'll start to really make sense. Beyond the headline-grabbing top-line numbers in the jobs report for July was another striking piece of data. The number of people unemployed for at least 27 weeks topped 1.8 million, the highest level since 2017, not counting the pandemic. The median length of unemployment in the US has also ticked up from a seasonally adjusted 9.5 weeks in July 2024 to 10.2 weeks for last month. So basically, and this is the numbers that we're referring to, basically means that when you're looking for a job, it's taking a long time. That's the general gist of it. I've had a couple of friends. One I know was looking for over a year. That was in LA. I know he just got hired because I heard from him I think like about a month ago or something like that. But he said it's temporary and expects to be laid off before Christmas. So I don't know if that is indeed going to be the case, but that's what he told me. So it took him a year to find something, found something for a few months, and then after that, not sure. I hope he continues, and I think in that situation, it's going to depend on if work is slow or busy, if they're going to need him or not. And I think a lot of people are in that spot, unfortunately. And so these numbers are ticking up. The number of people unemployed for at least 27 weeks. Sometimes the way they calculate the numbers also where people will just stop looking and no longer be counted. So that sort of artificially keeps unemployment numbers lower than what we get officially reported. I think it's currently at 4.2%, but the real unemployment could be much higher. And then you have the issue of even if you do have a job, it may not necessarily pay enough to keep up with expenses. You also have people who have to do multiple jobs just to make the numbers work, and it's a real struggle out there. And so for me, it's frustrating when I see the Trump people brag about being good at golf and saying, "Oh, getting rich off the tariffs," when Americans are paying this. This is more, and that's why I'm going through details with you. Just maintain some sanity and have an adult conversation about this stuff. This job hunting struggle highlights a significant undercurrent in the labor market. Jolted by tariff uncertainty and cautious businesses, The latest numbers show job growth has been sluggish for months, while the unemployment rate at 4.2% remains low by historical standards. Companies aren't hiring much. And I keep hearing that new graduates, so young people right now, are really, really struggling. We'll also go through some details of just people on the ground to hear their experiences, and I want to hear yours from your experience and people around you. Is your work hiring? Are they not hiring? Are they letting people go? What else to say? The rate of people in jobs or actively looking for work has tumbled to the lowest since 2022. So people are not participating in the system. Economists say lower participation in the labor force is helping to keep the unemployment rate low, but also masking an increasingly dismal climate for job seekers. And this is an example of a person named Jennifer Smith. She's 46 years old. She says she has applied for 900 jobs since being laid off last September, so that's about a year now, from financial services provider in Tampa, that's Florida, where she led the user experience department. She has landed just one interview and no offers. This has left Smith, who has 3 kids, increasingly anxious about her finances. And I know it takes a really long time for this process, and I'm really sorry to hear about this. My first reaction is obviously with any number of these things is don't give up. That's my first reaction. But I do know. I mean, it's especially if you don't have any safety nets in place, right, or people around you that can assist. Because oftentimes for this stuff, you literally need a helping hand, right? Either someone help you find a job, you need the right connection, or something just to help you financially while you can find something, right? It's really tough, and this is sort of when people just do gig work, that kind of things. What else to say? Smith decided this past week to sell her 5-bedroom home and trade down to a smaller house. That's probably the right move, I would agree. While severance pay has helped, it is about to run out. And Smith has been paying soaring premiums to keep her health insurance. And there's 2 problems with this, and this is the situation in USA. So, one would be health insurance is just really, really expensive in the US. You guys know this. Oftentimes it's tied to your work. So when you lose your work, and then suddenly, you have a chance of losing your health insurance also. And then it even gets more difficult. I think it's like COBRA is the thing that's sort of that stopgap. But it's really tough. Quote, I'm just trying to alleviate the financial stress, and hopefully it will help me not feel so hopeless. I'm still in shock that all this is happening to be honest with you. And then you get in the issue where the older you get in age, it becomes really hard to get hired. I mean, young people are having a hard time, and then, as you guys know this, it's real, unfortunately. There's age discrimination is real in the USA. It's a very unfortunate thing, because they know that they can hire, young people for cheap, and so they're less likely to hire older people. And I know this is a thing, and if you guys know what I'm talking about, then you're under a lot of pressure because you have kids, and then an employer can take advantage of you, pay you less because they know you're desperate, that kind of stuff. It's really a struggle. Here's more. This is from someone else. I'm considering myself semi-retired at this point. It's coming from a John. He's 61, a software quality engineer in Sandpoint, Idaho. He hoped to work another decade and thought he would easily pick up more work when his last contract work wrapped up in 2023. Instead, he estimated he applied for 500 jobs with no hits. And I know this is not unusual, unfortunately, to where people, have to apply for a lot of jobs and there's no luck. It's tough. And I just want to share these stories. If you're outside the USA, I don't know the situation outside the USA. I can just tell you in the USA, this is really common to hear these stories, unfortunately. I also know in the USA the benefits are just awful if you don't have full-time employment. A lot of times people piece stuff together with multiple part-time gigs or contract stuff, right? That's sort of how the US operates. It's been like this for a while. And it's frustrating for me to see this because, when I read a couple of these stories and people are willing to talk about it, because there's a lot of people who aren't willing to talk about it because it's it's extremely stressful, and it's hard to talk about, jobs and money, this stuff. But I just want you to know that your experience, I sort of why we talk about this stuff in an honest way. And it frustrates me deeply when I see the Trump people or Fox News telling you all are going to be rich and everything's great. And, they're building all these factories and stuff like that. And for like these kind of people, if you're 46 and you're trained in finance, or the person say, I'm in engineering, I'm 61, it doesn't necessarily help you. What's really going to help these people is keep costs down, keep the overhead down. And because you can't solve everyone's problem overnight, it's not that simple. But if you at least make it, hey, healthcare, and I mentioned this, healthcare, transportation, housing costs, food costs, like keep costs down, and then you don't have quite as much pressure, opposed to in the system where like everything's like really, really expensive and it's really hard to find a job. And then businesses then are cautious about hiring people because the tariff situation keeps fluctuating. You don't know what the heck Trump is up to. It's really, really volatile. His policies here, this is also from New York Times, Trump's big bill would be the more regressive than any major law in decades. We talked about this several times on the channel. You always have to reiterate this stuff for people to understand, because the basic gist of it is when you're cutting services that people need, be it food or healthcare, and you're basing your tax policy and giving more breaks and more cuts to people at the top, then you get this lopsided thing, right? So essentially, if you're in the bottom 10%, you're going to be losing down like negative 3.9%. You can see it right there in the chart. And the further that you go up, and this doesn't even necessarily tell the whole story, because like the percentage wise, if you just do nominal value, meaning that if you make, just for example, if you make 10 million a year, 1% is actually pretty significant, right? So it's a lot more money than say 1% to the downside on the bottom half if you're only making say 20,000. So this doesn't necessarily tell the full story. It's something that just crossed my mind. And my first reaction also too is we need to come up with a system that is not just sort of putting all the benefits to the top, because the Republicans, their argument is if we deregulate, if we give tax cuts to the wealthy, then the wealth will trickle down to the people towards the bottom. But it just doesn't work that way. Generally speaking, when you have this situation, you're going to have a larger gap between rich and poor. The Republicans will also argue, because I just want to give you different points of view. They'll argue, well, if we kick out all the undocumented workers, right, the illegal immigrants, then suddenly everyone's going to be rich again. But it doesn't really make sense either, because if you say kick out people who work in the farms, right, the fields, or roof in houses, or gardeners or housekeepers, the couple people that we talked about in this example, be it the 46-year-old financial person or the 61-year-old engineer person, I don't think they're going to work in the field or roof the house or something like that. So that's not the kind of job that they're looking for, right? So I can't solve everyone's problems with the wave of a hand. It's not that simple, but I can at least create a fair system out there to where people have an equal shot at these things. You also want to make education affordable, which helps people. And also just an honest advice. Sometimes you have to pick up and you have to go to another city to find work. Sometimes the city that you're in doesn't have what you need. You have to go somewhere else. I know it's not a simple conversation. I also know it takes money to do that. I really know. But that's something that if you want to read my book, you can. But it's something I talk about heavily in my book, because I knew if I would have stayed, where I grew up, I knew if I would have not bettered myself, not, gotten education, gotten skills, these kind of things, I would have stayed stagnant, and I would have never gone anywhere. And you always have to go where work is. And the best way I describe this thing, and I always use the same example, the generation above me in Oregon and Washington, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, or actually just to say 2 generations above me, would be the World War II era, is like the Great Depression era. People couldn't find work. And so what they do, they moved out west to work in the shipyards. And so a lot of people did that in that area. They either as a longshoreman or building ships, etc. And so I can't speak to your situation and your skills. I'm just talking in general. You got to figure out, okay, I have these skills to offer. Where's the work? And you have to go there. Unfortunately, this is just reality. Unfortunately, with the Trump situation, it makes it really, really hard because you're going to have a lot of people doing that. But that's one way that you can put yourself in a better position is to start doing that. You always want to be networking as much as possible. And I know a lot of people don't like to do that. I'm just giving you general job advice. I know for some people, they just don't want to do that kind of stuff. But that's part of if you want to get ahead. You always have to have your feelers out there, know sort of who's hiring, who's not hiring. You always want to be someone pleasant to be around. I know I laugh because like this stuff's hard to talk to for people who've never thought about their career in like just an honest way, or never sat down with someone who gives them like real advice about this stuff. It's something that you always want to be doing throughout your whole career. For people who don't think about the future, they just show up to work, don't really make any relationship with anyone, and just go home, and that's it. And then they wonder why they can't get ahead. And I'm not trying to be mean at all. I'm trying to be really just honest with you guys about this stuff, because I know it's hard when I read through people's, and it's also too why I read through people's sort of situations that they're in, and honestly say I can completely understand, and I know what you're feeling, and it's frustrating for me when I know much of the political leadership. It feels like they're disconnected from regular people's lives. And we talk about the Trumpers or whatever. It's frustrating because then they'll say, "Oh, guys, you should really be concerned about trans athletes and stuff like that," as if that's your biggest concern in life, right? I mean, whether or not the trans stuff isn't going to help you in these two situations, the finance person in Florida get a job or the person in Idaho's engineer get a job. It doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant, right? But that's how they gaslight you to fight these, kind of ridiculous culture wars, which means no real bearing on your life. And it's frustrating for me, but that's sort of where some of the dialogue in the USA is. Or if you want to talk about Epstein stuff, you can totally talk about that, right? Some people just focus on that. But for me, I can see the stuff happening to regular people, and I just want you to know that you're not alone, and there are other people out there who do want to talk about what's going on in the economy and otherwise. So right now it's hard to find a job, and Trump's raising costs on everyone. That's basically what it boils down to. So that's my thoughts. Please share yours, and I'll catch you next video.